Today, we're prepping to take a mobile rig for a 2-day on-site recording session doing classical piano and voice. Piano is one of the hardest things to record, only because you don't get a whole lot of chances to do it. I have the benefit of having done this a whole lot in college, and part of the way I made money in college was working in the studio there. They didn't pay much, but it was something. So I got a lot of experience miking pianos, and 99% of the time it was terrible. But having learned some of those things, I can go into this experience with a little bit of a background. So let me give you the rundown real quick what we're doing. So down here is my stack of microphones. I'm taking a collection of ribbons, have one stereo condenser, the Lewitt Pure Tube that I plan on using on vocals because it's so transparent, which for this purpose is exactly what I want. The wild card here, the Soyuz Ambisonic. Plan is to mount it on a really tall C-stand. This thing will get super high. We're gonna be in a beautiful recital hall. And this is gonna be our room mic, ideally. Like I said, I'm taking way too much stuff. So if things go wrong, if I don't like the sound of the Ambisonic, if I don't like the sound of what I took close mics, I can switch things around. The other thing I'm excited to try is having a channel strip for my vocals. One other thing I'm doing here, I'm taking these D'Addario stage boxes. I just pulled them from different places in the studio. I have a bunch of DB25 cables. There's my snakes, so I don't have to take super long runs of XLRs. I freaking love these things. I'll put a link below for these.
2 hours later.
Oh boy. Now, the keen-eyed among you may see a massive mess. Look at all this stuff. There's mics sitting everywhere, cables being tested, ideas being tested, all this running down here. A mic in here. Why are we doing this? Because in the moment, setting up for something where money's on the line and it's not in my 4 walls, it's not like I'm setting up for a traditional band session either. I could make a drum set at work in my sleep. As simple as this is, it's just piano and vocal. But there's nowhere to hide, so it has to work, and it has to work well. And I'm limited by how much power I can use, how much inputs I can have, and what I can carry. So I'm having to be very selective with my choices. And even just in testing this out, I have changed some things out just because of the limitations of the system that I've got. I am using the Neve 88M and the Focusrite Claret, which sounds fantastic. Going to employ the Harrison channel, and that is going to be on my main vocal. The cool part about the radial box, I have the feed knobs, so I don't have to wire this in and out, in and out, in and out. It's just out right into my interface. The Neve has a line input, which is fantastic, so I don't have to worry about stacking gain on gain. Everything seems to be working. The session itself, I have already built it. It is working. Inputs, I have notes ready to go for what plugs into what, because when I get there, it's go time. It's not experiment time, it's go time. And I do have backups. If my main idea on piano or room does not work, I've got my trusty ribbon. Will need a cloud lifter with it because I cannot turn phantom power off on a couple channels. So as long as I've got a cloud lifter with me, I'm gonna be okay in that situation. So only thing left to do is to pack up and get to the place. And this is gonna be a whole lot to carry, and I think I'm gonna have some help on that front. And that helping hand comes from Sweetwater. The Gator Frameworks 52-inch all-terrain utility cart has been a godsend. I have bought countless amounts of cheap little hand trucks to load in and out for sessions. I've had things break. I have things fall off of them. This thing's built different. It can take a ridiculous amount of weight. If you don't need it the full 52 inches, it shrinks down. It's easy to pack away. It's light. It can hold a ton of weight. I would have been in a much worse mood had I had to load all that stuff in from my car. in and out of a session like that, doing it all day, that would have been a nightmare. I would have been shot. I wouldn't have been able to think as creatively and clearly for the session. Little quality of life purchases that have nothing to do with musical gear, but can help you in that instance think clearly and have a better session. Those things to me make all the difference. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring the video. Let's get back to it. So we just got done recording piano. These are the AEA N13s, the lighter weight version of the N22s. I love using this ribbon, which is nice and dark on an otherwise very, very bright piano, especially in the mid-range. So balance it out nicely. And here's the thought process. So on miking a piano like this is the N13 right here. It's a little hard to see in that shot. So it kind of looks like they're facing perfectly down and on that piano. But what I'm actually doing is kind of tilting it like this. So instead of casting, I guess, the shadow of the microphone straight down, it's kind of like spreading it out across the strings of that piano. So I'm getting more of a picture of the left hand and more of a picture on the right hand. And because that soundboard is arced, if I were just going to put them up like on an upright here, like left and right, it's not going to act the same way. On a grand piano, that thing is spread out. You don't want to just mic the hammers on a piano like that. You want to back up a little bit, get the context from the strings and from the bridge, and let your room mics take the weight after that. And then having one on the bottom, the Loughton Clarion, just to kind of balance out the middle of that piano. The Clarion under the piano, I leaned on that thing pretty heavily. That Clarion is a sleeper of a mic. There's rarely a source that I put that mic on and I don't like it. In the context of that piano, what that bottom did was kind of glue everything together to give me the context in the middle of the piano that I really can't cover angling those mics, because that piano is such a large instrument.
These flowers of London town, seated in company,
as well as the Vanguard V44S in mid-side, just catching the picture of what's happening in the room, because we had singer right there, pianist here, my station way over yonder, and Soyuz Ambisonic picking up the room way in the back. That Vanguard is another mic that goes under the radar. That thing is so useful, and I find uses for it. I think about it very much like a tool, where it's kind of easy to think about mics as like there's a cool factor. That one, it just does the thing you need it to do. If you need an XY, it can do it. If you need Bloomline, it can do it. If you need mid-side, it can do it. It's wildly useful and it sounds really good. Small company, Vanguard, check them out. You mentioned writing this stuff at your place on a different piano.
Yes,
And-
a $200 piano that came with mice inside.
But you made an interesting point saying there's certain things that you write for knowing that this particular piano is going to decay in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
How quick do you make adjustments? What are you thinking about?
So I would try to make them before we would do a take. I would come in, specifically, I came in, did a run across the entire piano. I noted, okay, the most of the range here is pretty active. It mellows out, then it gets very bright up in here. Okay, so I knew that, okay, that's gonna work most of the time, because most of the time I have melodies going on up there, but anytime I have a melody going on down here, I'm gonna really have to tone that down. The other major issue was that the bass notes down here do not decay.
Just keeps going.
It just keeps going at practically the same volume.
Yeah.
Almost every other piano I played, and especially for this piece, about half of them in with a really low, really quiet, that's meant to kind of fade out over time. So I had to make sure that I hit those suckers extra soft.
Jeez, it's
So that-
still so loud.
And it's still so loud, so that the decay would be enough, and hopefully you can help me doctor that a little bit. But yeah, those were probably the bigger challenges with this particular piano. It's a great piano, but anytime you switch a piano, they're all gonna be different beasts.
So how do you go about, like, as a composer? This may be a stupid question.
No, it's not.
How do you keep that in mind as you're composing, or do you just use the tool in front of you at the moment?
If you're really good, you're thinking about all the possible ways that it's going to get played. Just like, I composed the voice part specifically for Marcy, knowing that someday somebody else is going to try to sing it, hopefully. Right? So you have to both do it for what's right in front of you, but think about, okay, what are some things that you've experienced that were a little bit different between different instruments? And how is that going to translate? Are there things that I can do to kind of mitigate those particular effects?
I liked what you were saying about what made you comfortable. Because I imagine training most of your life to be like an operatic singer using a space like this. And then if I put a microphone in your face, like what does that read to you? Like,
For me, this isn't my comfort zone, this thing right here. And so it's kind of like this big black eye. And then these cut me off from who I'm telling a story to, which are the people in the audience. If I focus on my obstacles, I disconnect from what I'm comfortable with, what I'm really good at, and it's telling a story to people. Even though I might not see faces, I know that their energy is there. And in the recording process, if I only focus here, I cut off something that's really comfortable. If I can go past that and sing through and sing out, and I can hear what my voice does in the space, I can hear my consonants, I can hear reverberation, I can hear it bouncing off. That goes, oh, yeah, you're in a great space, you're in your comfort zone. And then this fades. The music, the microphone, the chords, the process of the recording, for me as a stage performer, that goes away.
and I'm glad that's your tendency, because when I put a mic in front of a lot of people, sometimes they feel like, now that's my performance. Yeah. But you said the comment before, like, this outside beyond here is my comfort zone, and I really like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
One last question. I ask this for everybody. If somebody wants to get into this, like they think they have an interest in like composing piano, voice, quote unquote, classically, what would be like a good way to get into that? Where would somebody start?
So, I mean, there's always the traditional pathway of going through the educational model. Look for an undergraduate program that's accepting those types of things. But if you want to, get accepted to a good one, something that I did like way back in high school, I would listen to, film scores or other things. I would go ahead and see, can I do an arrangement of that just sounds good? And then when you do those arrangements, actually play them live in front of people. Especially nowadays, it's so easy to just trust the MIDI, right? Or trust whatever electronic things you get going. If you want to do this for real, you've got to start getting in live spaces, dealing with live instruments as soon as possible.
If you made it this far, guys, thank you very much. Hit the like button if you like this. Subscribe for more. If you want to see something else dealing with ribbon mics, we recorded a metal band all with AA mics. If you want to see how we did it, go check out this video down there. Thanks, guys.